Let's see what's going on. With some fast news. Oh. Decision desk poll. Is there supposed to be audio? I don't think so. It's just showing numbers and yeah, it's just showing. Approved. Oh well, this is NBC. So. And this is by Survey Monkey. Oh. Take that however you will. This NBC is more Democrat leaning, left wing leaning.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How was your call with the Prime Minister of Australia?
Yeah, we saw this.
Are you going to visit the Central Asian?
Alright, I talked about it. So. On Ground News. I saw the article, or them talking about it at least.
Smoke rising from the skyline in Kyiv after the largest Russian air attack since the war began. Sirens sounded across the country and residents fleeing from bomb shelters. Flames coming out of the cabinet building in Kyiv, marking what authorities said was the first strike on the main government office since the war began. Ukraine's Air Force claims that Russia launched 810 drones and 13 missiles into the country in the latest barrage, of which 747 drones and 4 missiles were shot down.
That's a drone in the air that just
At
exploded.
least 8 people are dead, 60 are wounded. Less than a month ago, President Trump hosted Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska for talks aimed at ending.
You can tell that one's a drone fucking exploding because of the damage. If it was a missile, it'd be a bigger fucking, right, you see a bigger damage impact.
Before this morning's strike about not being asked to attend that meeting.
It's a pity that Ukraine was not there because I think that President Trump gave Putin what he wanted.
And he called Putin's invitation for him to come to Moscow a delay tactic.
I can't go to Moscow when my country is under missiles, under attacks each day. I can't go to this capital of these terrorists. It's understandable, and he understands it.
You know you guys are drone striking each other? Right? What the fuck are you talking about, Zelensky?
Washington.
It's like, what? Sir? Huh?
Welcome back. The NBC News Decision Desk is out with a new poll this morning, and here to take us inside the numbers is NBC News Chief Data Analyst, the great Steve Kornacki. Thanks for being here, Steve. What do you have?
Hey, thanks, Christy. Good morning. So
I don't know who you are, but just
again,
give us the fucking
all adults here. This
numbers.
is voters and potential voters casting a wide
So this is what we saw
ask
earlier,
about President
right? The
Trump's
Survey
job
Monkey
performance,
stuff.
a 43% approval rating. That's what we find in this poll. And of course, that number, that's about the level we've seen Trump at in this second term, and it's about the level we saw Trump at too back during his first term. So it's sort
now
of a bit
people
low
still
historically,
blame
but this is very
Trump
much
because
par for the course
right
as far as
companies
President
are
Trump is concerned. On some specific issues,
right
he continues to get
downsizing.
his lowest marks right here. This is inflation, the cost of living, just 39%
Well, I mean,
approve of Trump's
yeah,
job
I mean, that's
performance.
still down,
there,
obviously.
we've seen that throughout his second term,
Especially
as well.
with the
he
high-
does better
the
when it comes to
housing,
the border,
right.
border security and
How people
immigration.
are fucking buying up
47% job
homes and
approval.
fucking people
We
over
did
and
something
shit.
interesting here, though, Kristen.
Or
We
turning
also
those
asked about
homes
a
into
different facet of this
Airbnbs and
topic.
shit like that,
Not just
right?
the border, but deportations. When we ask about deportations, it falls a little bit, 43% approval.
Handling
right
of
there. So small,
immigration,
but potentially significant. We say again, numbers.
No,
we saw,
I honestly, no, I have to say this one's kind of bullshit. No, this one's bullshit, right? The approval rating's way higher on this one. This is bullshit. Yeah, I'm gonna call bullshit on this one. Yeah, I'm gonna call bullshit on this one.
During Trump's first term as well. One of the things we saw in Trump's first term, Republicans had a bad midterm. They lost control of the House in 2018. They're trying to avoid that next year. One of the things they're hoping
Honestly,
will be
the
different this time,
disapproval
and our
rating is the
poll
lower one.
confirms it continues
Right, this
to be
one's
the
a
case
fucking like
right
80,
here.
80
The Democratic
40,
Party is
30-ish,
less
80-20.
popular than the
Republican Party,
Neither's
Democrat
doing
Party.
great, but the Democrats more unpopular. We did not see that during Trump's first term. We are seeing that during Trump's second term. And we asked about some other specific areas here. How about vaccine use in the news this week? Florida, relaxing that mandate? What do you think about the use of vaccine? You see broad support here, though. It is notable in our poll, under 50% now identify themselves as strongly supporting the use of vaccines.
Honestly, if you were to take out the somewhat, you would have a different
congressional districts, partisan advantage.
Anyways.
82% in this survey said they would rather have a nonpartisan commission than the party in power in a state draw the lines. Now, we don't know how deep this sentiment actually is, but one thing worth keeping in mind as this is played out, Republicans just did this in Texas. They didn't need voter approval in Texas. They could just do it in the legislature. California Democrats trying to counter Texas, they're going to need voter approval this November. This is sort of the baseline sentiment that they're up against out there. It doesn't mean the polling looks like this on that topic in California.
Also, I don't think they're even they didn't even talk about how like some of the infrastructure that's being built out right now that's going to obviously bring in more jobs, right? But at the same, anyways. Yeah, I don't know.
This is something
they didn't talk about some underlying
certainly one of the
stuff.
biggest flashpoints ahead of the midterms. Steve Kornacki, great to see you.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Oh, that's just NBC. They hate Trump.
Democrats are making a big push to reclaim the governor's mansions in Virginia and the governor's mansion in Virginia in November. They're also banking on the party keeping the governor's office in New Jersey. Why these two races in particular are being watched so closely for signals in next year's midterms? Harry Enton is running the numbers on that for you this morning.
Hey.
How are things
Holy Toledo.
How are things looking in Virginia and New Jersey 2 months out?
Yeah, I would say that these two races are the biggest flashing red siren signs for Republicans.
So this is
Why
CNN
is that? Let's
or
take a
some
look
of
right
CNN's
now at the
polls.
prediction market odds in both New Jersey and in Virginia. And in both cases, the Democrats are favored. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, 89% chance of winning according to the prediction markets. How about Abigail Spanberger
So
in the
Democrats in New
Commonwealth of
Jersey and
We're talking
Virginia.
a 94% chance of winning. I was looking at the polling data as well. The Democrats in both these races hold high single-digit leads. Obviously, Glenn Youngkin, currently the Republican governor of Virginia, was able to win there. And in New Jersey, the Democrats barely squeaked by back in 2021. Right now, the polling leads in both those states are larger for the Democrats. They're in better position than they were back in 2021. That's why in both cases, the Democrats are heavily favored. And as I said earlier on, to me, this is a flashing red siren warning sign for Republicans.
Counterpoint, there has always been a lot of debate around how much you can take from any one race and extrapolate and apply it to any future race. Why should Democrats or voters nationally care about what's happening in New Jersey and Virginia?
Right. Okay. So you see the Democrats leading in both of these races, right? Predicted to win in both of them. Why? Why should people nationally care? Why am I saying it's a flashing red siren for Republicans? If the same party has won in the New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial races dating back since 1989, guess who won the U.S. House the following years? 6 out of 7 times, the same party wins in the nationally, and they win the U.S. House of Representatives if, in fact, they win in both Virginia and New Jersey. So what happens...
That's a cool stat. That's a really interesting
This
look,
is
Harry.
exactly right, because
Well, I mean,
bottom
yes,
line
the
is if you're not a
Democrats were
resident
winning a
Virginia,
lot
you
of
should go, why should you
states
care?
back
It's
in,
because
right?
nationally these
back in
races
those
do, in
days.
fact, have predictive power if, in fact, the same party wins in both of those states. And currently, Democrats are favored to win in both, and history suggests, therefore, 6 out of 7 times, they are predicted to, in fact, win the U.S. House of Representatives the following year.
The debate I'm talking about between, like, don't make too much out of this and extrapolate and take it to that is generally, people say that around special elections, right? Because of who turns out for a special election versus a midterm or a kind of, what are you seeing this year?
Okay, so right, we took a look at Virginia, we took a look at New Jersey, but those are only parts of the puzzle. I think the key thing here is when people seem to be voting, Democrats seem to be doing well. So, you know, we mentioned those special elections. Last week there was that big special election in Iowa, right, where the Democrat won and a district that Trump won by double digits. The average 2025 special election so far, Democrats on average are doing, get this, 15 points better than Kamala Harris did in 2024 in those same districts. So what we're seeing is, again,
that's just because Kamala
after
Harris
signal
is not
after
in.
signal. When people are voting, Democrats are doing well. They are outperforming the baseline, doing better than Kamala Harris did in 2024. in the special elections and doing better than the Democrats did in 2021 in both Virginia and New Jersey. Of course, those states haven't voted yet, but the polls are indicating Democrats are in a strong position. And I will note this number looks a heck of a lot like the number we saw in 2017 leading into the 2018 midterms, where the Democrats were able to take back the House of Representatives.
So interesting. You know, when Donald Trump is not on the ballot, what does it mean for Republicans? This is another theory that's
it's a flashing red siren, as I said at the time.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.
It's a flashing red sign. All right, dude. Yeah, we'll see what happens when the elections come.
Russia launched its largest air attack on Ukraine since the start of the war, the Ukrainian Air Force said on Sunday, counting more than 800 drones and 13 missiles fired at targets across the country. Authorities said it killed at least 4, including 1 baby, and set fire to the seat of government. Ukraine's Prime Minister Yulia Sviridenko said it was the first time the main government building in central Kyiv had been hit. In a video said to be recorded from the inside of the damaged building, she said it showed Russia was not seeking peace and called on allies to help beef up Ukraine's air defenses. Elsewhere in the city, residential blocks were also struck, where officials said an infant's body was pulled out from under the rubble. Russia's defense ministry said it had carried out strikes
when you guys keep fucking fighting like this, obviously it doesn't look like you guys want peace.
To the TASS news agency, both sides deny targeting civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he spoke with French President Emmanuel Macron after the attack, coordinating diplomatic efforts and next steps. European allies have vowed to stand by Ukraine politically and militarily, but concrete offers of assistance are still being discussed. Russian President Vladimir Putin has pushed back on calls for a ceasefire, emboldened by strengthening relations with China. US President Donald Trump said on Sunday he is ready to move to a second stage of sanctioning Russia, but stopped short of saying what that entails. Trump has expressed growing frustration with Moscow, but despite repeatedly threatening further sanctions, he has so far resisted making the move. Also on Sunday, Ukraine's military said it launched an overnight attack on the Druzhba oil pipeline in Russia's Bryansk region, saying it inflicted comprehensive...
Oh yeah, Russia doesn't want peace. Hello, look at what fucking Ukraine's doing. You guys are literally fucking destroying each other's shit constantly, day in and day out. Oh, but we don't. But Russia don't want peace. Oh yeah, no shit.
Fire damage. Reuters could not independently
how can you want
report.
Peace when you still fucking
the location
go
of the video
on
released
bombing
by Drone
runs?
Forces Commander Robert Brovdy, but could not verify
Taking
the date
out
it was
infrastructure
recorded.
and shit.
Kyiv says
Like,
its strikes on Russian energy targets are in response to Moscow's continued attacks on Ukraine and aim to undermine its overall war effort. There was
Look,
no
if you guys would have
immediate
made your
comment from Russia.
ceasefire deal and then onto the peace, right, and then onto your peace deal because you guys are in the fucking trenches for so long.
For the first time ever, a government building in Kyiv was hit by a Russian aerial attack overnight. This, as President Trump said moments ago, that he's ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia. The Ukrainian military says more than 800 Russian drones were deployed against cities across the country. At least 4 people, including an infant, were killed. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling the attacks vile. And President Trump's Ukraine envoy says Russia appears to be now escalating the war. I want to bring in CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier. Kim, great to see you. I mean, the building that houses the Ukrainian Prime Minister's office was also struck in this assault. What do you read in this kind of targeting?
It is hard to know whether Russia has tried to hit these buildings before, but was not able to make it through the anti-missile and anti-aircraft protection around it, or if this was intentional. Previously, they've hit
right now they have like a
city,
shoddy iron dome.
This attack was 800 drones
because
and missiles.
it's with the help of the Americans,
what's called dummy drones,
and
they don't
the Europeans
have a warhead,
funding
but
their
they're
armaments.
Launched to confuse the anti-aircraft systems on the ground, so that many of them can then get through. Whether it was intentional or not, they did hit one of the buildings in the governing complex over Kyiv. And they also once again hit residential buildings, killing civilians. And these were residential buildings, at least one of them, according to reporters on the ground, it was hit by a drone. Drones are guided. Drones have some sort of capability to see where they're going. So it's hard to see this as anything but Vladimir Putin saying, I will do what I want for as long as I want, no matter what the White House says.
Are you stupid? He's been doing that forever since the war started. Yeah. He's been doing what he wanted ever since the war started. What are you talking about, bitch?
Giving Putin now 2 weeks
what do you think
to make
still
a peace deal with Ukraine. I mean, the deadline was last Thursday. No deal happened. But Trump said moments ago that he is ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia. And I mean, they haven't worked so far. Is this what it's going to take to get Russia to the negotiating table?
Well, the last set of sanctions that Trump struck was against India, giving India an extra 25% tariffs for a total of 50% tariffs against their goods, so that India would stop buying Russian crude. The thing is, a lot of that Russian crude that India buys, it sells on to Europe as finished products. And these tariffs didn't in any way affect China, which buys far more Russian crude than India does. Plus, also, India was so incensed over the tariffs that they have raised their orders for the fall by 10 to 20% for more crude. So that really hasn't done much to damage the Russian war machine. It is hard to know if Trump is ready to actually hit some of the areas like the oligarchs, something that would hit closer to the Russian centers of power, like he did in his first term. He's been advised to do that. He's been given those tools by his advisors, like General Keith Kellogg, who does fully understand what Moscow is about. The question is that we're all waiting and watching to see, will he finally lose patience with Putin and pull the trigger on something that will actually be painful to Putin himself?
Yeah, it was only a couple weeks ago. There was the Alaska summit. The president left that very hopeful. But now Zelensky is actually criticizing that event. Listen to what he had to say.
I think that President Trump gave Putin what he wanted. He wanted, he wanted very much to meet with President Trump, with the president of the United States. And I think that Putin got it, and it's a pity.
What? So,
and how do you think those comments are going to be interpreted? Because Zelensky has tried to be
so basically, what Zelensky wanted was not to have any peace deal going, right? Then why did you guys? Why are you asking the United States to facilitate some kind of fucking peace deal, trade talk, or ceasefire deal? Like what? Please, what are you doing, man? I mean, just okay. What? I feel like these people just don't give a fuck and just want to kill each other at this point.
Of this White House, especially after the debacle of that, Oval Office meeting earlier in the year. But now that he is, I guess, bold enough to say that, be critical, and that Putin has gained something from that summit, how will that be met at the White House?
You can almost see Zelensky thinking out loud, like, should I say this? And then he finally says.
I mean, okay, so ask Zelensky, okay, so what do all the weapons and armament, right? What do all the armaments and money that people have given you, what are you doing with that exactly? Are you actually putting that to good use?
The emperor has no clothes on.
Oh, he gave Putin what he wanted. What the fuck did you give Putin? A talk?
Done since the summit.
Oh yeah, Putin got a good stern talking to. Oh yeah, that's exactly what Putin wanted. What?
To the maximum. But the question is Trump also equally upset with what Putin has done?
Wagging the finger.
It hasn't looked like it, but
what the fuck are you talking about?
Trump can get he can run out of patience, and it happens suddenly. So if he feels in any way humiliated by what Putin is doing, then we're going to see a change in policy. What you have seen Putin also do is make a lot of different statements, like his most recent one at an economic summit was that if there are foreign troops inside Ukraine, this would be ostensibly after some sort of peace deal, and these are the reassurance forces promised by Europe to Ukraine. This is a deal still being worked out. Putin has said that those would be valid targets. This is not the kind of message you send if you're going to allow Ukraine, as Putin has previously said, to continue to exist as an independent nation that needs its own protection.
Oh, yeah, but...
And we're learning more details about the workers who were arrested in a massive Georgia ICE raid. Last week, nearly 500 people were detained. About 300 are from South Korea, and officials say they will soon be deported. Jen Sullivan has the details on the raid and the
300
reaction
South
across
Koreans.
the Peach State.
Are we in the U.S.? Like, I've never seen them come out like that, guns drawn, on the roof, helicopters.
Images of immigration and enforcement agents swarming a Hyundai plant in Georgia have sparked outrage among many.
We are calling on people across Georgia to stand with us, stand with the Hyundai workers.
Protesters gathering Saturday in Ellabelle, where the Hyundai plant is located, some traveling several miles just to show their support for those detained.
They're a part of our community. These are workers. They're the ones who build our cars that we drive every single day.
Workers.
They're not criminals.
475 workers were detained Thursday.
Some of
the
them have
was
criminal
one of the most
history,
extensive
probably.
Immigration raids in recent U.S. history.
Some of
As part of
them
the Trump administration's
fucking
plan
didn't
to
renew
crack
their
down
visas
on
for
illegal
some
immigration,
reason.
targeting workspaces.
So,
we need all work to end on the site right now.
The site houses an electric vehicle battery plant jointly operated by South Korea-based companies Hyundai and LG Energy Solution. Roughly 300 of the workers that were detained are from South Korea. Those workers will now return on a chartered flight following negotiations between the U.S. and South Korean leaders, according to an official.
This has been a multi-month criminal investigation.
The South Korean presidential chief of staff saying, quote, to prevent a reoccurrence of similar cases, we will work together with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy and the companies concerned to review and improve the visa system and stay status of people traveling to the U.S. for investment projects.
yeah, so apparently, I guess those people that came in right through that Hyundai facility, I guess they had like special permits and stuff during like the Biden administration, but once fucking Trump came in and changed a lot of shit, I guess they didn't renew their shit. Well, some of those guys didn't renew their shit either, so like I don't know. Also, they were looking for some particular individuals. Apparently they were looking for like 4 or something. So it was like they were looking for the 4 and then they found all those people. So it's like, you guys are in fucking hot water right now because you got some shit going on with immigration.
Pope Leo presided over his first canonization ceremony today.
Declaring an Italian teenager, Carlo Acutis, a saint. He is the first millennial to attain that designation. As Jewel Hillary reports, a parish
Carlo
named in his honor
Acutis.
is celebrating the young
Apparently
saint.
the first millennial saint.
Desidero ardentemente che altri potessero condividere il suo stesso et carolum Acutis.
It's a day of rejoicing for Catholics across the world. And an especially significant day of celebration for those who attend St. Carlo Acutis Parish in Bucktown.
We now become St. Carlo Acutis Parish. We were Blessed Carlo Acutis before, and now we celebrate that also in addition to the canonization of Carlo Acutis today.
The parish is the only one in the country named in honor of the new saint who was canonized Sunday morning by Pope Leo XIV in St. Peter's Square. Recognized as the first millennial saint, St. Carlo grew up in Milan, Italy. He was just 15 years old when he died from leukemia in October 2006. During his short life, he expressed a deep love for God and compassion for the less fortunate. Often called God's influencer, St. Carlo used his tech-savvy skills to spread his faith across the globe, touching the hearts of millions.
They said he's
including
passed away now
teens
from
in
leukemia.
Chicago.
I thought he was still
I come here every
alive.
Sunday to do altar
Man, they
service.
talked about him
High
like
school
he was still
freshman
alive.
Miranda
That's why I was all like,
Arias,
wait,
a
what?
parishioner of St. Carlo Acutis,
Oh, now I feel
says
like a
the saint
dick.
has helped her grow in her faith.
He was someone that I looked up to, so I knew that if he was able to have this connection with God, I was also able to.
We need that. Our young people need to have some
great models like him in order to improve themselves.
St. Carlo is honored on this piece of artwork in the parish where the artist used 1,000 toy figure pieces to illustrate the saint's face as well as showcase significant moments in his life and many things that he loved like his pets, computers, and soccer. He's also remembered in these 2 bronze sculptures. Blessed by clergy.
He was a catechist. He was devoted to the Eucharist. And all of these things offer an inspiration to young people how to live their faith in this modern age.
I'm sorry, I'm not religious. I'm sorry, Pope.
WGN News.
I say too many fucked up words. It doesn't work out, man. Also, I say the God's name in vain. Yeah, it's not good. Not good.
They say New York is a rat race, but this is ridiculous.
Oh, get him!
Welcome to Weird But True, your express train to the wildest stories.
I bet 3 video on that fucking one on the right.
A pair of karate
3 video on the one on the right. Look at him! Oh, got him! He's on the. Get him! God damn.
The Sharks. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Death comes for us all, Urokusaki.
And even Keanu Reeves.
How was he?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the time when I was coming home from school.
Kung Fu. Thankfully,
for whatever reason, some raccoons were just fucking each other.
Explained there's a good chance they're actually playing. If
on the
they were
side,
fighting, they'd be using
on
their
the road
incredibly sharp teeth,
at night.
and they'll be missing eyeballs and entrails hanging out of their abdomens.
Can't you guys go into like the bushes
visual.
or something?
Experts
Holy
say
shit!
It's the real deal. You might hear loud shrieks,
They're in the middle of the road.
Rats are
They're
known to
fucking
gently
humping
nip,
each other.
bite, and wrestle as a form of social bonding. Sounds like a fun Friday night. Either way, it's safe to say
Fucking
these NYC
animal.
ninjas have entered the Hall of Fame of Subway Rats, joining our city's beloved Pizza Rats.
Oh shit! Oh shit! Fight! Fight! 3 video on the left. 3 video on the left.
Are you even a true New Yorker if you haven't witnessed firsthand a rat taking home a slice of cheese? Or how about a donut?
Yoink. Yeah.
Or a cup of coffee?
What the fuck?
My personal favorite, this Subway rat working the
Oh,
pole.
hell yeah.
Hey, it's a living after all. While the Big Apple is clearly fighting with a rat problem, we're not alone. In 2022, a viral video from Singapore,
Oh,
which
get
is
him!
supposedly the world's
Get
cleanest
him!
city,
Go!
caught
Get
2
him!
rats boxing.
Slap fight!
You
Get
won't
him!
find
Slap
this
fight!
on pay-per-view. At the end of the day, we could all learn a thing or two about tenderness.
You
from a pair of
literally
romantic
see
rats
them
spotted
going
canoodling inside a
They're
restaurant
fucking
earlier
moving
this
their
year.
hands and shit.
As for the Greek eatery in question, it's been mercifully closed since May, so it looks like it's pizza again for dinner. And for more Weird But True stories, be sure to subscribe to the New York Post on YouTube.
Yep. Fucking rats, man. Anyways, on to the next.
Take a look at your screen as a member of the cult-like Zizians group
Oh,
making
yeah, these
her
guys
first
are
court
back.
appearance today for the killing of a U.S. Border Patrol agent after prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty.
Oh,
Teresa
the
Youngblood
bitch is
pleaded
getting
not
death
guilty
penalty,
to
get
several
fucked.
charges, including murder. Investigators say the 21-year-old is among a group of radical computer scientists who focused on veganism, gender identity, and artificial intelligence linked
Man, those
to at
people
least
put
6
computer
killings
science.
over
They
3
give
states.
computer
They're
scientists
known
a
as
bad
the
name.
Zizians, and they follow
These
Jack
people are just
Lasoda, a
wackos.
transgender woman known as Ziz, whose online writing attracted young computer scientists who shared anarchist beliefs. Youngblood is accused of fatally shooting Agent David Malland in Vermont back on January 20th, the day of President Trump's inauguration. A lot to this case, and I do want to bring in Nima Rahmani, the president and co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers, also a former federal prosecutor. Nima, obviously a very bizarre case and an investigation that is very active. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Of course, Josh. Thanks for having me. A lot going on in this case.
Yeah, and when you take a look at a case like this and you're talking about not just 6 killings, but those killings also including a Border Patrol agent, law enforcement officer, does that change any of the case itself and how it is prosecuted?
It does, Josh. And obviously, when you're talking about the killing of a federal agent, that is going to be a likely death penalty case, which is what we're seeing here. But I mean, obviously, there's so much more to the story of any time you have a cult and cult killings. I mean, it harkens back to the Manson family. And obviously, you have gender identity, transgender issues that tends to get a lot of attention. You have the anarchist component, anti-AI, veganism. There's a lot going on here as far as this young woman's motivation for participating in this murder.
What is kind of the criteria that has to be met for a death penalty case? Because we know that Vermont, where this happened, is not a death penalty state, but this is now a death penalty case. So how does all of that work?
So we have the dual sovereign doctrine, which means that the feds, they can prosecute a case regardless of what the state does. So they can charge over the state. This is what we've seen, for instance, in New York in the Luigi Mangione case. They can charge after the state. We saw that with Derek Chauvin and George Floyd and the McMichaels and Roddy Bryan for Ahmaud Arbery. Or they can charge in lieu of the state, which is really what we're seeing here because it was a federal agent who was killed in this particular case. And really, this is something we're seeing more and more. The Department of Justice is going to step in jurisdictions where there isn't the death penalty. And we're going to see a lot more death penalty cases in federal court, which you typically don't see. Now, you do need some sort of federal jurisdictional hook. In this case,
yeah, most of the death penalty stuff is stateside.
If you have some sort of interstate component,
you don't see a lot of federal
crossing state
people
lines,
getting involved in death penalty.
In this particular case, with Youngblood being involved in a cult and maybe doing this for some sort of political reason.
So this would be, this will be an interesting one if they
some sort of
do a live court trial on it.
Charge federal murder, and of course, then the feds can seek the death penalty, even if in a state like Vermont, they haven't had the death penalty since the early 70s.
When you talk about a case like this, and you are talking about an alleged cult member, and we talked a little bit about, you know, what this cult does, who they do kind of pray to, and who they look at, is there the chance here of a mental component? Is that kind of factored in, as you don't know if there is maybe a mental disability or something of that nature?
Absolutely. So when you're talking about the death penalty case, it's not necessarily who done it. You're really weighing the aggravating and mitigating factors. So prosecutors, of course, are
I think with Manson, even with Manson, even with those crazy, satanic motherfuckers,
premeditated. They're going to talk about the history of violence that this cult has been involved with. They attacked.
They didn't try them on
associated with cult, a landlord who was trying to evict them. So there's really this pattern of violence that does support aggravation and the death penalty. Of
no,
course,
they don't. They won't get away of some fucking mental, instability bullshit or unfit to stand trial bullshit.
She's very young, no criminal history, and they're actually going to use the cult as and the indoctrination as some sort of diminished capacity or mental illness defense. And you know when
I don't think they can use the mental illness
as a defense attorney, Josh.
I mean, they could try, but
alive. It doesn't matter. If
given like the given the case, given the evidence at hand, I don't think they're going to be
potentially some sort of plea, or if this case goes to trial, not necessarily defending the case during the guilt phase, but really focusing all their attention to the penalty phase to trying to keep this young
right. All that is
Where does
just
the case kind of go from here? Because today was the first court appearance since the prosecutors did announce
will they be able to argue
for it?
We know that
you entered a not guilty plea to several charges there, including murder. So what happens next here in this case?
What happens next is the parties prepare their case. Obviously, the prosecution is going to prepare for the case going to trial. You have to, because when it's a death penalty case, there's not really a deal you can offer unless you're thinking, you know, I'm going to offer a life without the possibility of parole deal, which it happens. I mean, Kohberger is a perfect example. It was litigated for years. And at the 11th hour, the state of Idaho decided to offer that deal, really to the surprise of everyone. But most death penalty cases go to trial because there's really no deal to be had. So obviously, the government is focusing on this traffic stop that led to the death of this Border Patrol agent.
Correct.
And then, of course, they're going to focus on those aggravating
that
factors.
too. Usually with death penalty, I mean, if you're caught red-handed, I mean, that's already right. It's it, dude.
Medical records, whatever they can do to present the mental health to this Vermont jury. Because even though it's a federal case, it's a Vermont jury, and they tend to be very sort of liberal and skew anti-death penalty. So that's going to be probably the most important factor here, Josh, the 12 men and women who are going to decide this woman's fate.
And my last question for you here, and I'm not sure if you can speak to this, but when you are talking about a situation that does involve a cult or an alleged cult-like institution, something of that nature, does the arrest of one cult member likely lead to other cult members being arrested as well? Is there any kind of correlation there?
Of course. So one potential bargaining chip
I mean,
that
they're.
the
I
defense
mean,
has
these
is
cult
to
members all have
cooperate
done
and cooperate
criminal
against
activity, have they
other
not?
cult members.
In some
And
form or
I believe
fashion.
the head of the cult may be at large. There might be some weapons charges we're dealing with. So obviously, as a former federal prosecutor, you're used to prosecuting organized
I mean,
crime. So, for
obviously,
instance,
you
the
would have to
prosecutor, large drug
investigate
cartels,
them
but
to
it can
see
be
if
the mob,
they've
it can be
actually
street
done
gangs, and it can be
anything.
cults
Right.
like this. And if you have someone that has information that leads to the arrest of
Well,
other people
I mean, it's
who are
looking
involved in
like these
crimes of
guys are
violence, maybe,
motherfucking
just maybe,
criminals.
you decide
Yes?
to spare this woman's life, give her a life deal. I'm not saying that's what you're necessarily going to do, but just one of the factors you might consider. If she comes in, she provides information, and you're able to arrest all the other individuals who are involved in this cult, that's something that you might want to consider if you're the U.S. attorney who's handling this case.
All right, Nima Rahmani, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and help break down a case like this. Anything you want to add here about any of this before I let you go?
No, I think that's it. We covered everything, but expect to see a lot more of these federal death penalty cases with Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice. So I think really this is just the beginning
this is gonna be
of
interesting.
many more death penalty
Pam
cases
Bondi
and
gonna
executions
fucking do it?
in
Is
federal
she gonna finally
prison
pull
and
the
on death row.
trigger?
All right, Nima, thank you again
She's
for taking
been
the time to join us.
green.
Have a great weekend.
She's been a
Of course,
bitch
Josh, you
about
too.
certain
Talk soon.
things, so it's like,
New breaking news.
is she
Police
really
in East
gonna do it? What is this? 2 shot, 1 killed after a fight in McDonald's drive-thru. Suspect in custody after reportedly calling police.
Hollywood are investigating a deadly shooting at a McDonald's drive-thru.
A second person was also wounded, and the gunman surrendered to police.
Did we see that?
KTLA's
Did
Jennifer
we watch
McGraw
this
is live in
yesterday?
East Hollywood with the
I
very
don't think
latest
we
on the
did.
investigation. Hi, Jennifer.
Lauren and Omar, good morning. Police are still out here investigating, trying to figure out what exactly transpired that led to a deadly shooting. We know that 2 people were shot. 1 person is now dead. It happened around 4 o'clock this morning here on Romaine and Western. The people were sitting in the drive-thru. Someone tells us that apparently the 2 vehicles somehow hit one another, and that's when people got out. They started arguing. A man pulled a gun, shot a man in the chest, another woman in her leg. A very scary and serious situation. People out here obviously distraught, clearly devastated. We're told both of these individuals were transported. I spoke with a family member. He says it was his sister who was shot and her fiance that was killed. The man was transported to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Now, as far as the suspect, he allegedly called police on himself and stayed out here. The victim's brother tells me he's upset that someone so young had a gun, something that is devastating for their family.
What do you mean someone so young had a gun? Are you fucking kidding me? The dude is what, 18, 21? Well, 21 to 21 to own a handgun.
It's definitely going to take a toll on a lot of us, including myself, because he was a great guy. You know, we partied, we had fun, we did a lot of cool family trips together, and now it's like everything was taken in a flash.
The suspect says that he was acting in self-defense, but he was taken into custody. As for the victim's family, they just want answers. They want to know exactly what happened in this drive-thru parking lot. That's why we're live here in East Hollywood. Jennifer McGraw, KTLA 5 News.
Now,
It's video.
I think we already saw this one. Man accused of killing Leslie Palacio in Las Vegas. Faces family. Judged for first time in a murder case? Or it has the dude just carrying a body or some shit.
It's video prosecutors say shows
Oh,
a father
dragging
and
the
son
fucking
moving
body.
a 22-year-old woman's lifeless body. Now, nearly 5 years to the day it was recorded. The man accused of murdering that woman goes before a judge and her family for the first time. That's a court appearance years in the making. Good afternoon, I'm Ozzy Mora.
And I'm Brian Loftus. Eric Rangel Ibarra was on the run for years until his arrest in Mexico and then his return to the Valley. That was last week. He's accused of killing Leslie Palacio, and today her family finally got to see him in handcuffs.
8 News Now investigator David Charnes breaking the news of Rangel Ibarra's capture. He shows us what happened in court and what's next.
Leslie Palacio's family waited 5 years to come face to face with the man accused of killing her.
Holy
Today,
shit,
that day
man. They
finally
waited
came.
5 years to get into this fucking court trial to get them right, to get some justice, to dispense some justice. Holy fuck.
Appearing before a judge for the first time since his arrest and the death of 22-year-old Leslie Palacio. Rangel Ibarra accused of killing Palacio in August 2020, then dumping her body near the Valley of Fire. Video the 8 News Now investigators first obtained from before the murder shows Palacio and Rangel Ibarra getting out of a truck and stumbling into Rangel Ibarra's family home.
Oh, they
Oh,
he
the
probably
same camera
date
shows
raped
Rangel
her.
Ibarra and his father moving Leslie's body into Eric's car. Photos from inside the home show a stripped bed, blood splatter, and cleaning supplies.
Jesus, holy
Ibarra
fuck,
was
they
in
just
Mexico
whacked,
within
dude, they
days.
whacked
Each
her,
year,
man.
the
Holy
Palacio
fuck.
family pleading for his return, which finally came just last week after a year of extradition proceedings. All possible because of a treaty with Mexico. Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson thanking federal and local authorities.
This is to the credit of the country of Mexico
and America working together to bring him back and to seek justice.
The 8 News Now investigators learning Rangel Ibarra is an undocumented immigrant who came to the U.S. as a child. Wolfson says doesn't matter where he's from.
I don't care what his citizenship is. The evidence shows that he committed this crime of murder.
Rangel Ibarra didn't enter a plea on murder and destroying evidence charges Wednesday. Instead,
I don't give a fuck where you're from. You committed murder. Your ass is gonna get fucking tossed in the slammer.
Judge giving him a week to secure a private attorney.
That treaty with Mexico that brought Rangel Ibarra back here forbids the death penalty, so that is likely off the table. This court hearing will continue.
Oh, they
next
wanted to
week,
get death
and
penalty?
That is when he could enter a plea.
Oh, but they
At the
can't,
Regional
no.
Justice Center, I'm David Charles.
Apparently, they can argue
David,
for it.
thank you. Jose Rangel, Eric's father, served just about 8 months in prison for helping his son move Palacio's body. The coroner's office ruling
Yeah,
the
I mean,
death as
usually for
unsubstantiated.
death penalty, there's a pretty high standard. Usually, judges don't like doing. I mean, you get the occasional judge who does do it because, well, the criminal rap sheet of the person, right? It's right. Yeah, death penalty is one of those things where you kind of have to weigh it high above, right? Like for people who've committed, like, I don't know, 20 right. 20 different things and has some murder or has some sexual assault or violence or more murder, you know. Anyways, there you have it.
And we don't know officially how investigators believe she died.
Let's listen in as President.
Yeah, we will see. Oh, we already saw this. Let's go on to the next.
The Justice Department is considering expanding federal gun restrictions to include transgender individuals. The move follows a mass shooting at a Minneapolis Catholic church that killed 2 children and injured 21 others, according to news reports.
Yeah, like I said,
officials say the top.
Right, like I said, look, if you already have like a mental instability, you shouldn't be owning a firearm, right?
Talks are
already
preliminary
breaking
and
the
no
rules.
formal proposal has been made. The August 27th shooting was carried out by a transgender woman during a service where most victims were children. A DOJ spokesperson told the Wall
They don't
Street Journal
want
that
you to
officials
get a
are
gun,
discussing
right,
ways
and then
to reduce violence among
right.
people with mental health or
They don't want
substance use
people to
challenges.
fucking do that. So that's
Advocacy
why.
groups have renewed calls for
Or they don't
stronger
want
gun
people
laws.
to own a gun
Moms
and then
Demand
start
Action
turning
urged
it on
lawmakers to
fucking
act
normal
quickly,
right,
saying
everyday
time and time
citizens.
again mass shootings carried out with weapons of war end children's lives. Gender dysphoria is listed as a mental disorder in the DSM, the medical handbook used to diagnose mental conditions, but scholars say it is distress, not identity, that defines the condition. Some critics have used this to argue for limiting rights, including gun ownership. Operation Blazing Sword, an LGBTQ advocacy group, pushed back, saying the shooter's gender identity is irrelevant and should not be used to generalize about the community. A federal law already barred.
You should tell that to the group of LGBTQ plus people who were parading around guns and being like, fuck Trump and kill Trump or whatever. It's like, ooh.
Felons, domestic violence
good.
convicts, and some people with mental health issues from owning guns. Read the full story right now on the Straight Arrow News mobile app or on SAN.com. For Straight Arrow News, I'm Kaylee Carey.
All right, there you have it.
US President Donald Trump warns he's ready for a second stage of sanctions on Russia over its involvement in the Ukraine war.
The Aussies are talking about
has
us.
killed 4 people while injuring more than 40 others. It's the largest aerial attack on the country since the war began, and the first time government buildings have been targeted.
This is the stark reality of Russia's position on Ukraine, for all the talk of diplomacy and Donald Trump's faltering efforts to mediate. The smoke rising here is from the building that houses the Cabinet of Ministers in the heart of Kyiv's heavily fortified government district. It is yet another major strike on Ukraine's capital, an escalation in a war already marked by countless assaults.
For the first time since the start of full-scale invasion, Russians struck our government headquarters in the centre of Kyiv. You can see the consequences of the attack. It looks like Russia is not seeking peace and is not ready for negotiations.
Authorities in Ukraine say this was the largest aerial attack since the full-scale invasion began. More than 800 drones and decoys launched, along with missiles. And as rescue workers search for survivors, Western officials say Moscow's strategy of targeting civilian areas remains central to its offensive.
Well, I mean, obviously.
Firefighters helped the injured through the choking smoke to relative safety.
I mean, it looks like they're trying to hit
Residents
infrastructure,
described
but at
being
the same
jolted
time,
awake
it's like
by
yeah,
powerful
they're just
explosions
lobbing shit in that area.
caused
Right?
widespread destruction.
I was sleeping, heard the explosion, the house shook, got dressed, got out to have a look. Trouble. The 6th floor balcony is on fire. My car is damaged. Well, just the glass was blown out.
I just have no more words left to express what I feel towards Russia. Only expletives, even though I never swear. I don't know any of the words.
Only expletives, oh.
And speaking to US media in an interview recorded before the attack, President Zelensky said Russia had no intention of negotiating peacefully.
I always said we can't trust Putin. He plays games, and he's playing games with the United States. Putin's goal is to occupy Ukraine. This is to destroy us, occupied.
Diplomacy in the face of such onslaught seems then a distant prospect.
Okay, so there
Ukraine
we
is
go.
urging allies to
That's what
deliver
they
even
didn't
more
play in,
weapons to
what
defend
the
the
other
country.
fucking new-
For now,
So he
any
said
end
more
to this
shit.
war feels far from near. Alex Rossi, Sky News.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
How is your
Are you ready?
Are you ready to
Prime
move to the
Minister
second
Mikael?
phase? Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How is your call with the Prime Minister? What's
Yeah.
the latest with all the establishment attacks on RFK Jr.?
Well, he's a different kind of a guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. You know, normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up. Why? Let me ask you. Yeah. Really? Higher than Chicago? You're not... Excuse me. You know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You know how many people were killed in Chicago the week before? 7. You know how many people were wounded? 74 people were wounded. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
That's pretty bad. Meryl. I mean, do you want to talk about that thing that what happened at Trump Tower, right? The crazy motherfucker who tried to bomb.
Are you considering attacking marshals inside of Venezuela?
Like the crazy people who go on to like do those vehicular fucking mass hitting people.
I don't know
right?
anything about that.
Man, you're lucky that nobody's like building a bomb to like destroy like a whole city or town or some shit, right? Or like trying to infect like the water source
Take a
to
look at your
poison the
screen
whole
as-
fucking right country or state.
Staying with immigration, South Korean officials say there's a deal with the United States to release the South Korean workers detained in last week's raid on a Hyundai plant in Georgia. South Korea is set to charter a plane to take them home, escorted by the foreign minister who's traveling to the United
so
States
South
on
Korea's gonna
Monday.
pick 'em up.
Of the nearly 475 workers detained, more than 300 are South Koreans. South Korea says it's going to review its visa system for travel to the United States in hopes of preventing a repeat incident. Overnight in Ukraine, Russia launched a massive wave of drone and missile attacks targeting Kyiv. Russia sent more than 800 drones and decoys and 13 missiles into Ukraine. At least 4 people were killed, including a mother and her 3-month-old child. In Kyiv, the government's headquarters was damaged. It had been unscathed since the full-scale invasion began 3 years ago. War-weary Ukrainians say it's time for allies to step up.
We are waiting for all this to be over. World leaders gather together to come up with a solution, but in reality, nothing has changed. On the contrary,
well, I mean,
the situation is
Putin wants
getting
something
worse.
in particular. I mean,
For its part, Russia said it used high-precision weapons to target military sites. And
why
denied
else
hitting
is he
the
causing
government
this
building.
issue?
Japanese Prime Minister
The war.
Shigeru Ishiba has
Conflict.
resigned after less than a year in office. Ishiba was
Military
blamed for his party's
offensive.
historic defeat in this summer's legislature elections. Voters said the governing coalition
Military
didn't deliver on
drill,
promises
right?
to address
Remember what
rising prices
back when it
and
first
stagnant
started, he
wages.
was all like, "Oh, this
Ishiba
is just
said
a
he had waited to
military
resign
drill.
until
Don't
there
worry
was a
about it."
trade deal with the United States. And there is now a millennial saint. Pope Leo canonized Italian Carlo Acutis today during a mass in St. Peter's Square. Acutis is known to many young Catholics by the nickname God's Influencer. The teen is credited with developing a multilingual website documenting miracles recognized by the church. He died in
Interesting.
2006 at the age of 15 from a rare and aggressive form of leukemia. Some of the young people who filled the square called Acutis a modern-day role model.
I learned from different people what his professors, his teachers said about his joy and the light he carried around him. So for me, personally, as an Italian, even as social media is used so much, it is important to have him as an influencer.
Leo also canonized Pier Giorgio Frassati, who was born to a wealthy Italian family but devoted his life to serving the poor. Still to come on PBS News Weekend, the worst violence in years sweeps across Indonesia, and a new book tells the story of a black family who helped build America.
This is PBS News Weekend from the David M. Rubenstein.
All right, there you have it. Shut up, PBS.
Ladies and gentlemen, somebody posted a map of the black population in the United States, and for some reason it's going viral. Please tell me why, because I don't get it. Are y'all mad about it? You frustrated? I don't, like, who cares? A lot of us live in the Southeast. I thought we knew that already.
No, it's, well, I mean, some people do, but it seems like there's a lot of people on the internet who, I guess, who don't understand American politics or American history to where, yeah, most of them are in the South.
We populate towards tropical
And then they
climate.
started,
We ain't
migrating
trying to be up in that
outwards
dry
into
ass
the other
climate.
parts of the United States when we started acquiring those pieces
I
of
mean,
land.
maybe what y'all saying is a lie. I don't know. It ain't never crossed my mind to move no damn Montana, North Dakota or South Dakota. I ain't never wanted to be there. Never. I like the water. The mountains are beautiful as well, but I ain't never wanted to live up there in no damn mountain. I've driven across the country before, twice. A lot of these where you see ain't no purple at on the map, that's because don't nobody live there. It's a lot of Texas that just no man's land.
Yeah.
A lot of the dry
true.
climate, don't nobody live over there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you really think about it, yeah, some of these areas, there's actually like fucking areas where it's just nothing, barren land, right? Even in California, right? Death Valley, right? There's basically nothing there. Just all fucking just desert-ish, fucking hot, right? Yeah. Right? No, barely any infrastructure, right? It's true. Practically a third world country or a third world piece of land right there.
Nobody.
Right, if you were to get
whole
stuck
lot
out
of
in
it,
Death
like, in the
Valley, you're
middle of
actually
America
fucked.
where it's dry,
Right, if you have like no
nobody out
water,
there.
you're fucked, dude. Like if you're stranded in Death
nobody
Valley
out
with
there
like
but
no supplies,
tumbleweed
you're
and
actually
mountain lion.
fucked.
What the hell what's the problem? Am I missing something?
Yeah, in some of these areas, literally, right?
Let me know.
There's
Anyway, my stand-up
no
anybody
water,
tell me
no food,
it's on
right? No
Tubi
food
right
source
now,
around.
and I'm on
You'd
tour.
be
Go to
practically fucking dead.
sugarking.com and get them tickets.
I mean, you'd be lucky if you could forage for some shit, right, in some of these areas.
In recent weeks, Indonesia has been rocked by massive anti-government protests that have spread across the nation.
Yeah, we got this still
Demonstrators
happening.
torched vehicles and government buildings. The protests are led by students, workers, and women's rights groups, angry over the yawning gap between Indonesia's elites and the shrinking middle class. Things turned violent after a delivery driver was killed amid a police crackdown. In all, at least 10 people have died. Earlier, I spoke with Aaron Connolly, Asia diplomatic editor at The Economist. I asked him about the current situation.
It remains to be seen what will happen this week. The protesters set a deadline of Friday for some of their demands to be met, the first 17 of the 25 demands. Most of those demands were not met, and I think the president is hoping that everything will just calm down, that it takes a lot of the wind out of the sails of the protesters, that to promise that there would be an investigation of the motorbike delivery rider's death, and that the allowances would be withdrawn, and that they don't go back down onto the streets, or at least not in the same numbers.
We have a little bit of sound from a protester talking about some of their demands.
We want concrete steps that they continue to take for all the people of Indonesia. We still feel unsatisfied. We still feel that there are still many changes that must be made, because we believe that when our voices have not been heard, then we must continue to move. Then we must continue to speak out to convey our aspirations.
What else are they looking for? What else do they want?
The initial demands focused on this incident that took place on August 28th when the motorbike driver was run over, that there be an investigation into his death, and then also that the military...
Wait, I'm sorry, did they burn that car down because that was the car that fucking ran over the person? Yeah. I wish we had more, I wish we had, more information on the incident, right?
retreat to the barracks that had not been...
Because I want to see, what led up to, right, that person getting accidentally ran over.
Some of them go so far as to require revisions to the law.
Was he just at the wrong place at the wrong time, and then they just
of the legislature.
And it was like, oh shit.
That accident may have been the spark that started this, but was there already sort of kindling laid down unhappiness over issues?
Yeah, quite a bit. On paper, the economy looks like it's doing pretty well, so growing at about 5.1%, if those numbers are accurate. But beneath the surface, there are all sorts of economic indicators that suggest that people aren't doing okay. So, the price of key staples like a kilo of rice, that's up 34% since 3 years ago. And then there just aren't very many jobs. And so youth unemployment, particularly the unemployment rate of young graduates of university, that's gone up considerably over the last couple of years. And so people really feel like they're doing it tough. We talked to one teacher in Central Java who said that, she's struggling to make ends meet. And then she sees these legislators enriching themselves with things like housing allowances.
What?
I think the underlying
You're someone who works at Java. Wait, what? Java. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
He said that he wants a coalition of all the parties in the legislature, and that he then wants to make that permanent, implying that there would be no Democratic opposition in the legislature going forward. And that really limits the avenues that people have for opposing his policies, and they find their voice only on the street now.
So is the concern that Indonesia may be going back to authoritarianism under this way?
That's been the concern since President Prabowo Subianto was elected last year, because he has himself a history in the dictatorship of his former father-in-law, Suharto, who ruled from 1967 to 1998. He was a special forces general during that period. And then in the protests that brought down Suharto in 1998, he was quite active, and there have been allegations that he was involved in some, sponsoring some agents provocateurs in an attempt to try and justify Suharto remaining in office under emergency rule. And so there's a real fear that, some of the more violent protests that we saw over the last couple of weeks, that was actually not protesters who were doing that. And of course, the protest leaders have said that that wasn't their people, but that he was seeking to justify really a power grab, a consolidation of power.
This is sort of the first big test for President Subianto. What do we learn from it? What his reaction and response tell us about him?
I spoke to one foreign diplomat who knows President Prabowo well and said, look, he's a populist, and like all populists, he wants to be popular, and a crackdown doesn't serve that end, and nor would.
Does he want to be the globalist?
I think he's trying to thread that needle, as we said earlier.
Does he want to be like the globalist terrorists that want to
the protesters, a lot of
be the next world
What's the
power
next chapter? What do people think is going to happen
and make
next?
everyone bend down
there
to
were
their
big street protests
will?
under President Prabowo's predecessor, Joko Widodo, in 2019 and
I don't think that's going to
2021.
work
It looked a lot
out
like
because
these.
you have a lot
And
of
it seemed
players
as though
involved.
this was
who
going to
are
be a really
already
big moment in
right.
Indonesian
You have to
politics,
deal with
and
3
the president did make some
superpowers. I
concessions,
don't
and
think
it
they're
did
going to
bend
allow
down
you
sales
to
to protesters.
become a world
The
power.
protest leaders have said that they don't want to allow that to happen again, but it's certainly possible that President Prabowo plays this perfectly, and that we don't see the protests immediately revived. But I think all that dry kindling that we talked about
Right,
earlier, the
remember
economic
Britain
issues,
used to
the
be a
lack of
world
democratic
power, and look what
accountability,
happened to
that's going
them.
to lead to protests again and again throughout
They
his term,
lost
unless
their
he changes
edge
course
because they
and
got
allows for
fucked in the
more
ass.
democratic contestation and accountability in the legislature.
Indonesia, in all this turmoil, what does this do to its standing in the region, and what does it do to the region overall?
Well, Indonesia is the biggest country in Southeast Asia. In fact, it's the 4th most populous country in the world, 3rd largest democracy. And so what happens in Indonesia matters. It matters for Southeast Asia, and it matters for the rest of the region as well. Some of us who focus on Indonesia, we like to say that it's the world's biggest invisible object. Because it doesn't get very much attention in Western
Well, I
press,
mean, yeah.
Except for moments like this.
Yeah.
And
You
so
should
it is an important
you should
country,
tell
and
that to
it is a kind of
Benghazi
leader
and
within the
right, a
region.
lot of all
And so
those
countries
other
will look at what
places,
happens
right?
in Indonesia,
Jesus.
whether it's moving toward a more
Fuck.
illiberal future or whether it's moving toward a more
Yeah,
democratic
there's
future.
so many
And they
places
will,
that
to
don't
some
get
extent, take their
fucking
cues from Indonesia.
any eyes on.
Aaron Connolly
and
in
there's
Singapore.
just
Thank you very much.
horrible fucking shit
Thanks, John.
happening there. There you go. There you have it. Over 3,000 people have been arrested during the protests in Indonesia since they began in late August.
We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities.
Yeah, we already saw it. Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, this one was fucking nut. Yeah, in broad daylight. Fucking walks up to her, beats her up, and then fucking.
Tonight, we're
shoots her.
following a developing story. This coming out of Center City. One person in custody tonight after a woman was shot and killed. It all happened in the middle of the afternoon, right
Yeah,
along
right
a
here.
busy
Fucking
Chestnut
walk,
Street.
yeah.
This entire crime was caught on video. Action News reporter Leland Pinder joined us
There's
live from
one
police
dude trying to
headquarters with more
stop him
on
from
what
doing
we're learning about this.
anything,
Leland.
and the dude just turns around.
Gray, a
fucking
really
shoots
nice
her.
Friday night here, coming to a halt for a few hours in a very popular and well-traveled area of Center City. Sources tell us police are looking into whether this may have been a domestic situation. Dramatic video shows a shooting unfold in Center City Friday evening. This happened just before 6 p.m. at the corner of 12th and Chestnut in front of a 7-Eleven.
Oh no, it's got the rainbow sign on it.
Hear
Oh,
things like this
shit.
happening. Despite not hearing it often in his neighborhood, Casey Boltinghouse was sure the popping he heard was a gunshot as he was headed out for a bike ride.
That's when I just was outside my door, heard that, and just started riding down Chestnut.
Police say one woman is dead, pronounced at Jefferson about 90 minutes after the shooting was reported, and one person is in custody. The video appears to show 3 people involved. It looks as if one woman is trying to get a man off of another woman.
Oh, so it was 3
Moments later in
people.
that same video, it shows the man point a gun at the woman on the ground. Police have not released how
Oh,
or
shit,
if
they
this
actually have
trio may know
audio
each
of
other
it.
or what led up to the shooting. Sources
Did you
tell
hear
us
that?
Police are also looking
They actually
into whether one of the
they played a little small sound clip. So they have audio of it.
women was the person initially armed. Witnesses reported the gun was somehow pried away from her.
They hauled the girl off in the ambulance, which that happened really quick. Obviously, the hospitals are right around here.
Yeah,
so
they're
that
literally
happened pretty
around the
quick.
corner,
Hauled her
probably.
off. She was getting loaded up when I got here.
Evidence markers suggest at least 2 shots were fired. Police say their investigation is ongoing. And police have not identified that woman who was killed. Also, no word on charges at this time. Off camera, people in the area told me they'd seen the group before and believed they may be part of the homeless community. Live here outside police headquarters,
what?
Leland Pinder.
Part of the how did that homeless guy get a gun though?
Yeah, disturbing video,
What?
disturbing situation. Let's hope police get to the
excuse
bottom of
me?
it. Leland, thank you.
All right, there you have it. Oh shit! What the fuck was that?
Mr. McKenzie.
What was that about?
Was a unfortunate victim of a just a careless, ruthless targeting as a African American man.
What was that about? The dude, he had a shotgun or something in his seat.
But he's speaking today.
Took it out, shot it outside. Like, what? Shot it in the air. What the fuck just happened?
There being no need for a hate crime, statewide hate crime bill here in South Carolina. And as a survivor, somebody who went through what he went through, he wanted to speak.
I was shot at standing, waiting to go to work at 5:30 in the morning, and I feel that there's something should be done with the bill. I think they should really push it so nobody else family will be heartbroken or hurt or the situation of their skin color. So I really think it should be pushed.
And I would say add to that, people are emboldened by the lack of a state hate crime ordinance or bill, because it's a subliminal message that says if you're racist and you want to commit a crime against somebody, targeting them for their race, gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, whatever it is, you could do it here.
Well, we had an individual who shot and scared a black man solely based on his race. So we charged him with the shooting, but then Richland County has a hate ordinance, so we were able to add that to his charge also. The penalty's not much, it's just 30 days. It's not anything that's gonna make a significant change to his sentence. You know, shooting the gun, that's gonna be the major charge that he's gonna have to face. The hate crime is ordinance that says you just can't basically commit a crime against someone based on hate, which is race, religion, etc.
They're basically being discriminatory.
He was black,
right?
And originally he was going to shoot him, but decided
racist,
not
right?
to shoot him
Discriminatory.
at the last minute.
That's
Just
what
shoot
hate
up in
crime
the air.
is, in a sense. Right? You're being discriminatory based on their either their race, ethnicity, whatever the list of things is for that. Anyways, there you have it. What's this?
We do have some breaking news to get to on this Sunday when it comes to the
Oh, yeah,
war
this is
between
more
Russia
of
and
the,
Ukraine. Take a look at this. On
Russia,
your screen, we
Ukraine
do have
stuff.
these live images. This is of a government building or a residential building, I believe, over in Kyiv. The Associated Press reporting that Russia hit Ukraine's capital with drone and missiles on Sunday in the largest aerial attack on the country since the war began, killing at least 2 people and leaving smoke rising from the roof of a key government building. Russia attacked Ukraine with 810 drones and decoys, according to Ukraine's Air Force. Spokesperson for Ukraine's Air Force continued on to say and confirm to the Associated Press that Sunday's attack was the largest Russian drone strike since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began. Russia also launched 13 missiles of various types. Ukraine shot down and neutralized 747 drones and 4 missiles. Hits from 9 missiles and 54 drones were recorded at 33 locations across Ukraine, and the debris of shot-down targets fell at 8 locations. Associated Press reporters saw that plume of smoke rising from the roof of Kyiv's Cabinet of Ministers building, but it was not immediately clear if the smoke was the result of a direct hit or debris, which would mark an escalation in Russia's air campaign, which has so far spared government buildings in the city center. Now, the building is home of Ukraine's cabinet, housing the offices of its ministers. Police blocked access to the building as fire trucks and ambulances arrived. We did get a statement from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky over on X. I'd like to bring it to you here on your screen. It's quite lengthy, so I won't read it in its entirety. But in part, he says
this is what I wanted to...
Since last night, work has been ongoing to eliminate the consequences of Russian strikes. More than 800 drones, 13 missiles, including 4 ballistic.
So this is,
according to preliminary information,
Zelensky's
several drones
post.
crossed the border of Ukraine and Belarus. He then goes on to detail some of that damage that they saw throughout the capital of Ukraine. And he ends that post by saying this: such killings now, when real diplomacy could have already begun long ago, are a deliberate crime and a prolongation of the war. It has been repeatedly said in Washington that sanctions will follow a refusal to talk. We must implement everything that was agreed in Paris. We also count on the implementation of all the agreements to strengthen our air defense. Every additional system saves civilians from these vile strikes. The world can force the Kremlin criminals to stop the killings. All that is needed is political will. I thank everyone who is helping. We do have some other statements from global leaders who are also responding to that latest
Political?
attack here on
What
your
the
screen.
fuck
A
are you
post on
talking
X
about?
from
Are
French
you-
President Emmanuel Macron.
Are you saying you
saying
want to
Russia
go
has once
fight
again rained down
Russia?
hundreds of drones and a dozen missiles on
You
Ukraine
literally
overnight,
want everyone
striking
to push into
indiscriminately,
Russia? Is that what
including
you want?
residential areas and the seat of government. My thoughts are with the victims, their
See,
loved
this is
ones,
why.
and with Ukraine.
See,
and
this is
Ukrainian
the
people.
issue with
Together with
Zelensky
Ukraine and our
because he
partners, we
doesn't
stand for
like
peace.
come
Russia,
out
meanwhile, is
straightforward and
locking
say what
itself
he
ever
actually
deeper
wants
into the logic of
people
war
to
and
do.
terror. By Ukraine's side, we will continue to do everything to ensure that a just and lasting peace prevails. And then finally,
Because he
I do
knows he
have a
can't
post
say
here
what he
from
really
EU
wants
Commission
on
President Ursula
air
von der
because
Leyen,
it's gonna get to fucking
saying, quote,
Putin.
last night Russia launched
And
one
if
of the largest
Putin
drone
hears what he
and missile
wants,
strikes
right?
on
If
Ukraine,
Putin hears what
targeting
fucking
government buildings
Zelensky
and
says, he's gonna
homes
be like,
alike.
okay.
Once again, the Kremlin is mocking
We're going to
diplomacy,
war.
trampling international law, and killing indiscriminately. Europe stands and will continue to stand fully behind Ukraine. We are reinforcing Ukraine's armed forces, building lasting security guarantees, and tightening sanctions to increase pressure on Russia. The killing must end. I want to bring us back out to this live image that does continue on here, courtesy of some of the feeds that we have all around the world as we see firefighters, their emergency management officials down in Kyiv assessing the damage to several of those residential buildings across the capital there. Any new development?
All right, there you have it. Live at Fox News. If you want to look at all these, right, article or news things, right, or do your look at other sources, right. Everything will be in the right description.
Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said on Sunday he will be stepping down, ushering in a potentially lengthy period of policy paralysis at a shaky moment for the world's fourth largest economy. At a news conference,
Yeah, apparently
Ishiba
he
said he has
resigns
instructed his
after he
Liberal
loses.
Democratic Party to hold an emergency leadership race. He
So
added that he
basically,
would
there's going to
continue his
be have
duties
to be a
until the
new
new LDP leader is elected. Ishiba
Right,
came to
leadership
power
position.
less than a year ago with promises to revive his scandal-hit party. Since then, his
So,
ruling
Japan,
coalition
who
lost
is
its
it going to
majorities in
be?
elections for both houses of parliament amid voter anger over rising living costs. Last week, concern over political uncertainty led to a sell-off in Japan's yen currency and its government bonds. Until Sunday, the 68-year-old had refused calls to step down. Ishiba had focused instead on ironing out details of a trade deal with the United States on President Donald Trump's tariffs, which have roiled Japan's critical automotive industry and cast a shadow over weak growth. Ishiba's last act as premier will have been to finalize the U.S. deal last week. That involves Japan pledging $550 billion of investments in return for lower tariffs.
Well, I mean, the
On
fact that the
Sunday,
U.S.
Ishiba
is trying to
described it
build
as
like
having
a steel,
overcome
right,
a key
a steel
hurdle,
mill,
saying,
a
"I would like to
steel
pass the baton
meal-
to the next
mill.
generation."
God damn it.
However, since the party does not have a majority
Right,
in either house,
it's gonna
it is not
take a chunk
guaranteed
out
that
of
the next
Japan's
LDP leader
profits,
will
right?
become
Because
Prime
everyone was
Minister.
buying from Japan.
Lawmakers can nominate any
So
candidates
now
from
that
the
US
chamber,
has-
and historically, the
has some
leaders of
production
opposition
facilities
parties
for steel,
have been put forward
right? There's
for
some
the
people
vote.
who are obviously going to start buying from America. So obviously they're going to have to redistribute their funds on what trade deals they're doing, right?
The North Charleston Police Department says a man wanted on counts of murder and attempted murder turned himself in this morning. 20-year-old Zaquan
shit.
Jamison was wanted for murder, attempted murder,
Oh.
possession of a weapon
Now
during
we
a
know why
violent
he's
crime
he's
and
in
was
for
flagged
murder.
as armed
It's
and
because he looks like a
dangerous.
lunatic.
Jamison was taken
Literally.
to Alcannon Detention Center.
He's got
before
like
being
some kind of
transferred
skin
to the
disease
Santee
condition.
Police Department. The North Charleston Police
he-
Department says a
stop-
man
he-
wanted on counts of
He doesn't look
murder
human.
and
He looks like a
attempted
lizard.
murder turned himself in this morning. 20-year-old Zaquan Jamison was
But yeah, there's so holy shit. This dude looks like a fucking lizard, man. Holy. There you have it. What's this? Oh, okay. Well, that okay. That is it. That is it for fast news. Holy shit, that was a lot of news. Just for one day. Anyways, that's gonna call it. There was a mixed bag of stuff, right? A lot of fucked up things, a lot of financial things, a lot of U.S. trade talks, tariffs, Ukraine war, Indonesia stuff, yeah, everything. That's it. That's gonna do it. If you want, like I said, everything will be in the description. Right? All the sources, if you want to take a look at them. Do your own research. Yes. Have a good one.